All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to learn a new method to help us solve quadratic equations. So if we kind of think back, we have solved quadratic equations by graphing. That was one of them that we learned. And then the other one that we learned is by using square roots. So we are going to talk about a third method of how to solve quadratic equations. Remember, you guys, when you're solving quadratic equations, you're really just trying to find where the parabola is crossing. Okay, that's what we're looking for, is these couple of points right here. Okay. So our essential question, how can you use completing the square to solve a quadratic equation? And basically what's going to happen with this completing the square process is, and here's the definition, to add a constant to an expression in the form of x squared plus bx so that it looks basically like it's in standard form and is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, here's a basic example of what that looks like. You might be given something like x squared plus 4x. Okay, through our process of completing the square, we'll end up coming up with 4 here. And again, I'll teach you how to do that in just a second, so don't freak out. But what they want you to do is they want it to be a perfect square trinomial, just meaning that you can break this down so that it turns into x plus 2 squared. Okay, so again, if we do x plus 2 times x plus 2, this turns into x squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, but that's what that perfect square trinomial is. Actually, technically, this is the perfect square trinomial. What you want to be able to do is get it from this perfect square trinomial into this binomial squared. Anyway, so make sure you get this definition written down. The next part that we're going to talk about kind of quickly is the core concept. So this completing the square process, to complete the square, yada, yada, yada. Okay, these 3 steps, these are the crucial things. These are the things we want to be able to see and understand. So for step 1, find 1/2 of b. So you're going to be looking at this b term, so the term that's attached to the x, and what's going to happen is you are going to take that b term and you are going to cut it in half. Okay? Second step, so I will just kind of say that the second step is in purple. What you're going to do is you are going to square this. Hence, as the reason it's called completing the square, you are going to square this little formula here. And then once you've come up with that, so let's just take this example here that I told you guys about. We'll take x squared plus 4x, right? So we'll take b. That b value is right here. So it'll be 2 divided by 2. I'm sorry, 4 divided by 2. What am I thinking? 4 divided by 2 squared. So 4 divided by 2 just turns into 2. So 2 squared would be 4. And then add the result from step 2. So you're just going to take this and you're going to add it to the end of it. Okay? And then what they want you to be able to do, just like I talked about on the last slide, is they want you to be able to take this trinomial and get it into a binomial squared. And that's all there is to it. So we just took this whole thing and we did the completing the square process. The first few examples are just going to be of us trying to get the perfect square, find the perfect square, and then factor the trinomial and get it into our binomial squared. Okay? So again, make sure that you get all of these, especially, well, that part's already in there for you. But get this algebra stuff written down. You guys, I love seeing this algebra stuff. I feel like it paints a really, really good picture for you. So just make sure that you get all this stuff. I'm going to move on to our first couple of examples. I think I clicked too far. There it is. Okay. Complete the square for each expression. Then factor the trinomial. So first off,
CLE, if you're in the building, please report to the library each other. CLE, please report.
So what's going to happen is we are taking, remember this is our b term, we're taking b divided by 2 and we are squaring. Okay, so your b term is 6, so 6 divided by 2 and square it. 6 divided by 2 turns into 3 squared. And really you can take this a couple of different ways. This is the path that I like to take. So x squared plus 6x plus 9. That is the trinomial. Okay, trinomial, 3 terms. What they want you to do now is factor it so that you get it into that binomial squared. You guys, if you need to show this extra step here and just say, okay, I know that this is this, x's go there, and I know that 3 and 3 are how I multiply to get 9 and add to get 6, but really all I need to see is this part right here. So I want to see this, and I want to see this. Okay? And if you notice, just kind of take an extra second here. If you notice, this number right here turns out to be this right here. That's the way it's supposed to happen. So if you're ever confused or not sure what this term right here should be, go back to your completing the square, like this process right here. Whatever you get squared, that's the number that should show up back here. Okay, now example B. Example B, I love this example. This is not going to turn out to be a super, super nice number for us, obviously because it's odd. And our entire process, we love even numbers. Those are the ones that work out really well for us, but it's not always going to be the case. So we're going to take -9 divided by 2, and actually don't even worry about doing the actual division. Let's keep this as an improper fraction, because it makes it easier for when we want to get to this step, when we want to get the binomial squared step. So we'll just leave it as 81/4, because now here's our trinomial, x squared minus 9x plus 81/4. Now we're going to take this trinomial and break it down. This makes this process so, so easy. This is just going to be x. That's going to be squared. And again, this right here is what ends up going in the back half. -9/2. These are the two things that I want to see. Those are your two solutions. You guys, if you're doing any of these examples, because your task now is to flip the page and do examples 1, 2, and 3, if you're struggling with any of them, write down all of your questions off to the left where it says questions. That's the reason that I have this template for your note packets, so that if you have any questions, just write them down and then we can talk about them tomorrow. So, like I said, your goal now is to do these 3, 1, 2, and 3. This one is exactly like example 3, and these two are fairly similar. I mean, I think the only difference here is that there's a negative, but they're fairly similar to example A. This one's just got a negative. So do these 3, pause the video, go ahead. I'm going to move on to our next couple of examples, which are solving by completing the square. I'm going to rewrite this because I don't like that it's just mixed in with the writing. Okay, so first step here, we are going to use the completing the square process. So again, you're taking your b value, dividing it by 2, and then squaring it. So our b value is negative 16. So here I've got negative 16 divided by 2 squared. Negative 16 divided by 2, that's going to turn into negative 8 squared, which is then going to turn into 64. Now, this is a really, really important piece for us, you guys. You have to take this 64 and you have to add it. So here's x squared minus 16x. You are going to take this 64, and you know what? I'm going to do it in a different color just so we make sure that we've got this. When you add it to one side, you have to add it to the other side as well. You have to keep that equation balanced, right? This equation, this equal sign, means balance. Okay? So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So now from here, what we're going to do, besides combine these like terms, so let's see, 64 and negative 15, that turns into 49, is we are going to take this trinomial and break it down into our binomial squared. So I've got x, the square root of 64 is 8, and let's look at this sign here, that's going to be negative. And maybe you guys already see where I'm going with this now. We have a square up here, and we've got a perfect square here. We're going to finish solving this by doing, and I don't know why that color didn't change. We're going to solve this using the square root method. So it's kind of combining a couple of methods here. But now that we've completed the square, so now this turns into x minus 8 equals both positive and negative 7. So then I'm going to add 8 over to the other side. And then this is going to turn into 8, both plus and minus 7. So you still have two solutions. 8 plus 7 turns into 15. And then 8 minus 7 turns into 1. So these are your two solutions. Okay. Again, if you've got questions, write them off to the left-hand side. But I'm going to move on to the next example because I feel like this video is getting a little long and I just want to try and make them a little bit shorter. Whoopsies, not this one. This is the one that I want. Okay. Again, we want to use this completing the square process. In order for this completing the square process to be successful, your C term needs to be a perfect square. Okay, right now this C term is not a perfect square. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to kick this over to the other side and come up with our own perfect square. Okay, so this will be 2x squared plus 20x. And then I'm going to have that equal 8. And you know what, you guys? I just realized you have a common factor amongst all of these. Let's take this entire thing and simplify it for ourselves. X squared plus 10x equals 4. Okay, the perfect square process now. Your b term is 10 divided by 2 squared. 10 divided by 2 is 5 squared. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to add 25 to both sides. Okay, so now this turns into, let's see, you got 29 here. This is going to be x plus 5. Okay, we're still solving the exact same way. So we're still going to do this square root process. Now I've got x plus 5, but this time, this is still going to be the positive and negative, but this is just root 29. We can't do anything with it, so we're just going to leave it as root 29. Subtract 5 from both sides. Your solution now turns into x. Oopsies, I want this to be purple. Why aren't you changing? X equals, let's see, negative 5 plus and minus, so negative 5 plus the square root of 29, and negative 5 minus the square root of 29. There are two solutions here, but it's just positive and negative. All right, I am done. Hopefully you guys have the first 3 examples done, so examples 1, 2, and 3. You are now going to do examples 4, 5, and 6. Number 4 is exactly like the first example. Not the first example, I guess technically it's the third example, but the x squared minus 16x equals negative 15. Kind of the same here. And then number 6 is going to be similar to the second example, the 2x squared plus 20x minus 8. If you've got questions, please bring them to me tomorrow. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great evening. Bye.